What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we're going to be covering everything that you need to know about Learning Limited. For those of you that are new to my channel, every single video I do a free 30-minute consulting call giveaway. All you need to do is comment ecom tide and what you thought of the video, or anything for that matter. In addition to commenting those things, you also need to like this video. You need to be subscribed and have those post notifications turned on so that you are notified each and every time that I upload a new video. I'll put the winner right over here. So please DM me on Instagram at ecommerce_Kyle so that we can schedule your call as soon as possible. Now with that out of the way, let's get right into the video.
Most of the time when these people be talking, I don't even hear them.
So I created a little slideshow for you today. I'm going to keep it short and sweet because this is a very, very important topic, but I don't want to overcomplicate it because there's a very, very simple way of solving this problem. So let's get into it. Learning Limited, don't let Zuck believe. All right, so what is the learning phase? So when you start or edit an ad set, Facebook has to learn how to best allocate your budget within a specific audience. So Facebook has this thing called machine learning, and that machine, like any human, needs a little bit of time and a little bit of practice to learn how to perform optimally, right? So when you play a sport, you're gonna need to dribble that basketball or juggle that soccer ball for a couple of days, couple of weeks, couple of months, maybe even a couple of years before you actually get good at it. So with Facebook, you can't expect them to know exactly who to optimize for within a day or two. It's gonna take a little bit of time for them to learn. Now, as you can see here, there's an image of what the learning phase progress looks like. So you're gonna have this little green circle. It's gonna say learning next to it. And it basically says, after you create a new ad set or make a significant edit to an existing one, their system has to do its best to learn. And that takes a little bit of time. They estimate 50 conversions per week, which is a lot for a brand new ad set. So just keep that in the back of your head. So now, what is Learning Limited? So we know what the learning phase is. What happens when we enter the Learning Limited phase? So as you can see here on the right-hand side, these are the different statuses of your ad, or some of these might show at the ad set level in regards to the delivery or the optimization status of your campaign, ad set, or ad. So an ad set becomes Learning Limited when it is unlikely or when it does not achieve 50 conversions in a 7-day time frame from when you either created it or your last significant edit. Now, this is really, really important because a lot of people preach, including myself, lower budgets in the beginning when you're testing products, especially for e-commerce. Now, this applies for all areas of Facebook marketing, but specifically for e-commerce, if you're testing a $30, $40, $50 item, you're probably gonna be starting with $5 or $10 budgets, and your cost per purchase is probably gonna be around $20 or $30 to begin with. So at that rate, if you were spending $10 a day and you needed to spend $30 just to get one sale, you're only on track for maybe 2 or 3 sales a week for an ad set. And Facebook sometimes will expect you to hit 50, or they might do something to impact the performance of that ad set. They might actually punish you for not hitting that 50 conversions per week, but we'll get into that. So again, Learning Limited is when an ad set didn't generate enough results to exit the learning phase. And once they do, it will either say active with just a green circle next to it, or if it does not get into the learning phase and it just says learning, that's good, because that's just about as good as active. It just hasn't exited that phase, but it hasn't gotten into Learning Limited. Learning Limited is bad. We don't want to be in Learning Limited. Now, what can you do to avoid Learning Limited? So I'm going to go over a list of what Facebook recommends and what I recommend, because if you've ever hopped on a call with one of Facebook's marketing expert gurus, you know that they don't really know as much as some of the high-level marketers in the industry. So number one, they say to combine ad sets and campaigns. I'm gonna go into a little bit of detail on what their definition of this is in the next slide, but for now, just interpret that how you please. Number two, expand your audience. Number three, raise your budget. Number four, raise your bid or your cost control, right? If you're doing any form of manual bidding. and not automatic bidding. And number 5, change your optimization event. Now, really just quickly touching upon each of these. Number 1, as an e-commerce entrepreneur, not a lot of us are going to be combining ad sets and ads and consolidating them within one ad set, right? Multiple interests or multiple performing ad sets and just make this mega ad set. It doesn't really make much sense because we don't know which ad set is going to be bringing in the sales and which ones aren't. So I personally didn't really know how to interpret this first line as combine ad sets and campaigns, right? What does that really mean? Number 2, expand your audience. This is a lot easier said than done because a lot of us are only going to be targeting one big interest at a time. So all Facebook is really saying here, from what I'm interpreting, is try to start with an audience size as big as possible, which is what I already preach and a lot of other people already do. Number 3, raise your budget. Not gonna lie, this is the most efficient way of getting out of the learning limited phase, if not the only sustainable, consistent, long-term solution to do so. So this one's definitely important. Number 4, raise your bid or cost control. Now I've done this. It's not really a viable solution if you find kind of that sweet spot in your bid cap or your cost cap and you are executing manual bidding and you find a really, really good bid in the auction that's helping you get a ton of conversions at a really affordable cost. So to me, this isn't a viable solution. I've done it. It's gotten out of the learning limited phase for a couple of days, but then went straight back in, as a lot of these other solutions that Facebook tells you will yield. And number 5, change your optimization event. Facebook is trying to tell us, hey, if you're not getting 50 purchases a week, change your optimization to add to cart. Maybe you'll get 50 add to carts per week. Now, obviously that doesn't make any sense as an e-commerce entrepreneur because we want sales. We don't really care as much about add to carts. Even if it means getting out of the learning limited phase, we want Facebook to learn how to get us purchases, not add to carts. So now to summarize what Facebook meant by consolidation, this is how they break it down and explain it. Option 1, select the ad sets you want to combine, then create a new ad set that incorporates the audiences, budgets, and distinct creatives from other ad sets. And pause your old ad sets if those start to do well or not even. Now again, I talked about this already. This doesn't make much sense because we like to target single interest or very, very few interests and very few creatives as possible, right? Some people like to split test 2 or 3, but generally you're not going to be testing 5 or 10 creatives and 5 or 10 interests and maybe 5 or 10 different budgets, which you can't do at the ad set level. So it doesn't really make much sense to offer this as a solution because even if it gets us out of learning limited, it might not actually increase the performance of that given ad set, and we might lose 9 trying to just consolidate 1. And now their second option, which I think it sounds very similar to the first one, is consolidate your ad sets into one existing ad set or campaign. Most advertisers choose the ad set or campaign with either the lowest cost per action or the most results to combine ad sets and campaigns into an existing ad set or campaign. So I may have interpreted that option 1 incorrectly because I basically explained it as option 2, but for the most part, they're talking about consolidation. And now I agree with Facebook in the sense of being rewarded for simplicity, right? So you want to organize your campaigns properly, but you don't want to have a million different campaigns for a ton of different things. You want to have as much consolidation as possible. Not only is this going to make it easier to manage, right? It's going to take you a lot less time to manage your ads every night or every day. So generally, I think the point they're trying to get across is that us advertisers on Facebook should shoot for consolidation. So fewer campaigns, fewer ad sets, more organizational structure. Now, I agree with this, but to a certain extent, there's only so much that you can consolidate. Consolidation is good for saving time when it comes to managing your ads on a daily basis, but it's not always going to provide the most efficient outcome. So that pretty much sums up the video. Just to give a quick wrap up, learning limited is essentially this thing that Facebook has started implementing that is another one of those little tactics for Facebook to get more money out of the advertiser. I personally don't think it serves a legitimate and actual function. I just think if you aren't spending as much as Facebook wants you to, then Facebook is going to punish you for it. And the only real way of getting out of learning limited is vertically, internally scaling whatever the budget of your high performing ad sets are. Once it enters learning limited, if the ad set is performing really well, or if it was performing really well, you're gonna wanna really aggressively internally scale it so that it can get out of that learning limited phase, so that it can achieve more than 50 conversions per week. So now this learning limited phase might even get you to change your overall testing strategy from maybe testing from $5 and $10 budgets to closer to $20, maybe even $50 budgets, so that you can start with a multiple of maybe 2 or 3 times what you think is gonna be your average cost per purchase. That way, if you're spending 3 times your average cost per purchase daily on an ad set and you need to spend 8, right? Because 8 times 7 is that 50 conversions per week. You only would need to increase internally the starting budget of your ad set by maybe 2 or 3 times, which isn't too aggressive at that point. Moral of the story, whether it's CBOs or cold testing ad sets, try to start with a little bit higher budget than usual if you want to avoid this phase, or if you want to get out of it, you're going to have to vertically increase and scale your ad sets, maybe a little bit prematurely, but only do so if it was performing well before or during the learning limited phase. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them down below. And if you're struggling with any particular area of e-commerce, please feel free to let me know. I'd be happy to cover a video on it because I want to help you guys out as much as I can. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.